So we are into episode 22, I believe I said earlier.
Oui, oui.
And you, as a party, have returned back up to what you were told was the old city. And had discovered a small hidden break in the cliff face that led down into what you have now found to be the ruins of where the townspeople used to live. You're not entirely certain how long ago, but the place is quite damaged and run down, and in some cases completely collapsed. The reasoning being, as was mentioned back in town, the earthquakes had collapsed part of the cliff face and they had evacuated to safer areas. It's quite dark where you are, but there are patches where sunlight is making its way through and lighting up sections of the ruins. As you had entered, you had seen up the very far end of the caverns a sort of sizzling crack of light and followed by a roar of a manticore, which Alara had hypothesized was probably the source of all the problems. In the darkness, you can occasionally hear the flapping of wings. There is the occasional noise indicating that there are manticores still prowling around in here. For those of you that have dark vision, you can make out the ruined buildings. There's sand and rock everywhere on what used to be paved roads. Some of the buildings have been crushed by boulders. It looks like one of the cliff faces has crashed into the others, sort of closing the sky above into mostly darkness.
Right. So what was the? I forgot.
We go in there and we kill whatever we find.
Sounds good. Let's do that.
Deal.
Alara's going to look at the both of you and say, it's not entirely certain how many of those creatures are in there. Do you want to fight every last one of them on the way?
Obviously.
I'm just
Why
gonna
else
look at
would
her.
we be here?
I'm just gonna look at her and I'm just gonna say, did you expect anything else from us?
Don't forget, they're coming back to life even if they do die.
That means we get to fight even more. It's even better.
Oh my god.
Alara's just going to slowly look towards what would normally be sky, sigh, and say, your way it is. She gestures off towards the far end of the caverns and mentions that flash of light potentially may be our destination. Shall we head in that general direction?
Cautiously.
Okay.
How do you do kosher?
Slow, listening to everything, no sudden movements. You know, cautiously.
That sounds like a lot of work.
in regards to fighting everything?
That sounds like fun. Okay, let's go. Let's stop discussing it. We're not going. Let's just go.
Mug first.
Yeah, I think Mug is in. And occasionally asks like, so which way is it?
All of them.
So the tunnels led you into a area that directly in front of you would have been a building, but is now just the walls of it. And you can turn to the right and follow down what appears to have been a road, or to the left.
But which one seems more fun? I don't know how Mug would this.
Both have sandy floors. There's cavern wall on your immediate right if you're looking down the road to the right. And you can see past some buildings, and before it eventually turns to the left, you don't see any creatures at the moment, but you're not entirely certain if there's any that are flying anywhere overhead. You see a number of potential paths turning to the left, like cracks in the walls, or what may be alleyways that still may be passable. To the left, there's an abrupt, sharp turn, and not an awful lot of excitement as far as you can see.
Can we hear anything?
Occasionally hear flaps of wings, the occasional roar off in the distance. It sounds like most of the Manticores have made their way out, potentially from those holes that you could see letting sunlight in.
Okay.
Okay, is there someone who knows which way to?
Well, you could ask one of the Manticores.
Let's not.
I mean, I could, but they don't seem. Why would I?
Alara just shrugs and points to the right and says, "That road appears to at least be the longest. Perhaps we can find a path through the city that way."
Let's go that way. That sounds good too.
Mm-hmm.
I pull out my arquebus.
Yep.
And I use the scope to check down the longest alley, to see how much I can see in there.
Looking down your scope, you just see that at the far end it turns into a wall that once upon a time probably had mosaics and so on in it, but nowadays appears to be just as broken as most of the city. It turns around to the left. There are what appears to be two buildings, or at least the wall's long enough for two buildings. You see a door, or the ruins of it. Hard to tell from this angle. On the right.
This side is exciting. There's a wall.
So should we punch the wall?
Alara just rolls her eyes at this stage. She's gonna look at the.
Why is the wall exciting? Did you want to fight it? It's just a wall.
I'm just gonna sigh and facepalm. And I start moving towards the wall.
Mug is following, but he's confused.
Alara's just gonna watch the facepalm, smirk and say, "And now you know how I feel most of the time."
Oh, it's because you hang around Mug all the time.
Something like that.
Ooh, are you not feeling jealous about that statement?
Actually, nah. Because I know where she sleeps.
You make your way along the road. It eventually comes to a corner that does a sharp left, but the road continues on beyond that. And you see that you've walked past what once upon a time would have been a building, and the roads sort of snake and curve around on each other. The road continuing ahead of you breaks off to the left down a narrow alley, and to the right has a building that you can clearly see. It's quite damaged and ruined, but the door is still hanging loosely on its hinges. There appears to be a separate building just beyond it, but you can't see an entrance from where you are.
Huh. So are there holes in the walls that you can look through?
There's a couple of cracks, probably from repeated shaking. There might be a hole in the roof. You can't quite tell from where you are.
Can I attempt to climb the building then?
Yes, you can.
Okay. In that case, I should probably have already prepared it, but...
Yes, you will need dice. And
That's 25 sets. Is that enough?
I think that's plenty. Now, off the top of my head, that will be a dexterity acrobatics, I think, is one of the...
Oh, yes, I have advantage on those, because I'm up. Let me quickly find the dicey boys that I can actually use today. So, that's 3 d6s. So, first result is... Let me actually type it. Plus dexterity plus athletics is 18. Second attempt is 17, 19. So I rolled a 19 in total.
Right, you find a crack that runs up the length of the wall upwards, and jamming your fingers in, you climb it rapidly.
Yes.
And find yourself easily up on the roof. From there, you can see across to the other building.
Yes.
Its roof's in bad shape, it's got rocks on it, but there's no damage. The one you're on top of, though, it does have a brand new skylight, courtesy of the rock you can see buried in the middle of the room.
Okay, I'm gonna wave over the edge for the others to join me up here.
What's up there, Silas?
A big hole.
Oh, I like big holes. They're big.
Alara's going to sigh and then...
Why would I want to see a hole in a roof?
I'll be right back, guys. Sorry, I have to do something real quick.
Mug is also climbing.
Alara sighs, looks at the rest of you, and attempts to make it up as well. Let me just double check what her abilities
do
are.
we need...
Yeah, you'll need to roll. Let me just double check the stunt table to see if she can.
What is it?
It was dexterity and that's dexterity and acrobatics if you've got it. Right. My brain wasn't working there for a second. Interesting. Right. Alara struggles for a bit, but eventually makes her way up.
Got 12.
How much?
12.
12. Alrighty. So let me just double check.
So that does this one?
I missed what you said there, Mug.
Are there any stunt?
Stunt-wise, you can probably utilize. Where is it? Resources at hand if you've got 4 points to spend on it, because it'll allow you to use try that in English. Allow you to use acrobatics, which will allow you to add +2. Wisp, you make your way partially up the wall before a rock gives way in your hands, and you start to slide back down it. It takes you a lot longer than the others to get up.
This hole better be worth it.
I can't remember my dexterity.
Let me.
Oh no! Oh, wait! I found. Oh yeah, so it was.
How much you've dropped out again?
Can you hear me?
You're dropping in and out, so I can hear little bits. Ah, there we go. Mug, you go up the same way Wisp does, and as you get near the top, you throw a meaty hand up to pull yourself up, and it comes away with a whole brick out of the wall.
Uh-oh.
You nearly topple over, but Alara leans down and grabs you and helps pull
Wouldn't
you up.
Just fall down?
I had a turn. Sorry, what happened?
We nearly died because you wanted to show us a hole.
But I'm sure it's a really fun
You're
hole.
very welcome. Wait, did you seriously nearly die?
No. Just kind of.
Wait, what? How?
We just didn't roll very well.
Help? I don't understand.
Alara just looks at Silas and goes, "Some of us can't climb as quickly as you."
But we tried our best.
I can teach you.
Or you could throw a rope next time.
You have a rope on you?
I would have had to have rope. Oh shit! Does she point at the length of rope that's attached to my backpack?
She pats you slightly on the shoulder and goes, "Did you forget I packed your bag today?"
Aww.
Fair point.
Right, what about this hole? Did you need everyone to see?
Look how cool it is.
Is there anything?
And with that, I go,
is
wait,
there
let
anything
me
in the
look
hole?
down it. And I look down the hole. What is? Do I see anything special?
You currently see that.
That guy did the wrong thing.
The rock that punctured through the roof appears to have found someone, or at least the remains of someone. Alara winces slightly and says, "At least it didn't hurt."
Silas is gonna look at her and go, "Well, he probably deserved it. It won't do headbutting a big rock that's coming at your face."
Well, I don't know. It looks like it's a fun way to die.
Dumb ways to die.
Oh my god.
Looking around the rest of the room, Alaris trying to see anything of interest.
Should we see if this guy had like some valuables on them?
You want to jump down?
Why
Wait,
not?
you've got a rope, do you not?
Yes.
Silius.
Let's use the rope this time.
Good idea.
Yeah, that sounds clever.
Okay. And I toss the rope down and I like hold it up on the top.
Alara's just looking at you, Silas, and going, "You're intending to hold that for all of us?"
Yeah, and then I'll jump down.
Mug is putting all his weight on it. And then it starts going down.
Is that versus my strength?
Yes.
Oh god. Can I help him pull the rope?
How did that? Is it a critical fail? Did we both fall down into the hole? Because I know who has
You
more
both
haste.
fall.
I know which of us has more hit.
Oh my god.
I mean,
At the exact moment that Alara has asked you that, Mug has just leapt onto the rope. Silas, as you're giving your smart-ass response, you suddenly feel yourself yanked into the void.
Can I try and land it?
I mean, you know what? I think you deserved it. Silas deserved it.
But will you hit Mug or miss?
So,
Can I try and land on Mug?
Well,
Because that would sincerely reduce my impact, right?
what I'm going to do is, Mug, can you roll a dexterity?
okay. Let's see how well Mug can. Well,
If this is a triple one, this is going to be glorious, by the way.
no, it's not. Can I stunt points?
Yes, because if you've got 4 at least, you can add a focus of acrobatics to this.
But they only work if they only work if you succeed already, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going well. At least I have hit points.
Mug, as you suddenly realise that Silas is not able to hold you up, you start trying to twist as you realise you're about to fall on the rock. You just glance past it and land flat on your back in the sand. Silas, you belly flop onto the rock.
Oh. I mean, it's a legendary.
I burp a literal pain.
I'm presuming you're both wearing armor.
I'm wearing light leather armor.
So that's 2 off the top of my head.
Yes.
Alright, so you both took 8 falling damage, subtract your armor.
Oh fuck.
Is it 8?
Oh, that still leaves me in the original number.
Yep. Mug, you would have been fine if you landed just in the sand.
Are you still alive?
Alara's voice follows.
Obviously.
Silas, I'll take a groan as a yes.
I'm all fine. Silas is just weak ass.
At that, you hear like a loud thud as the back of my hand lands on his cheek.
See, this is what I'm talking about. He is weak. And and then Mug hits him back. See, with his points.
Fair enough. I got that coming.
Did you find anything exciting down there apart from the rock?
We haven't looked yet.
The rock is comfortable though.
I'll take your word for it.
Rise, children. Explore.
Right. Mug gets up, looks. He wants to see what's so fun.
Mug, as you look around the room, you realise that they're underneath a healthy layer of sand that's come in through the roof. There's tables and furniture, some of it broken apart. There is
Ooh,
also
this place looks fancy.
weapons that appear to have been sitting around for quite some time. Then look a little bit rusty.
Weapons. Yeah, Mug is looking at the weapons.
Looking around, you see a couple of single-handed weapons. They look to be short swords and long swords. And up along one of the walls are rows of pikes.
Ooh. So is there
Wait.
that's like back quality?
How long are the pikes?
They're not too much taller than a... not those kind of pikes.
Okay, because that's the only image of pike I get. Wait, let me search for pike weapons. Ooh. Are they in any reasonable condition?
They appear to be in good shape considering that you are in a desert, so there's not an awful lot of humidity in here.
They get sandblasted every few hours.
There's a little bit of rust, but you're fairly certain you could polish that out.
Can I like make a mental note of where they are so that I get them?
You can do.
Like if we get the chance.
The other thing of interest is there is a chest close to the front door
Ooh.
and the door itself.
Can I head to the chest?
You can do. It's quite...
Mug, I want to say Mug is trying some of the pikes to see how well they work.
Mug, you pick one up off the rack and take a couple of swings and find that it's quite light in your hands and you can get a really hefty swing behind it if you like.
I like this. Maybe I'll keep one. I want to try how it works.
Standing it upright next to you, it's about 3 times the height of yourself. Silas is about just over 2 times your height.
Oof.
Probably not something you'd want to be fighting in a tight alley with.
But it should be good enough against Manticores because they're pretty big
Ooh.
in there.
Mug, the thought comes across your mind that you could poke them out of the sky with it.
Ooh, Mug likes these.
I was just thinking, these are awesome for like raiding other ships. Because you can reach their balloon without having to climb up there.
Oh my god, I would have never thought of that. That's really clever.
You hear Alara's voice waft down from above. You'd have to be standing on their ship to do that.
Yes, but we end up there every now and then anyway. Because that's where the fighting happens.
Fair point. Are you going to open the door?
Well, no, first I'm opening the chest. And with that, I go and look at the chest and I try to open it.
You go to lift the lid and you hear a clank as the old lock on it holds it shut.
It's a very old lock, right?
It's old, but like the weapons, it seems to be just spots of rust on it. It's, to your best ability, still quite sturdy by the looks of it.
Can I take out my smithing drill?
You can.
And drill out the hole?
You can do.
I'm trying to drill out the lock.
Yep. I will get you to roll an engineering on that. So intelligence engineering.
Why
In
are
the
my dice so? Why are you like this? So I rolled the same dice that rolled the 111. And this time, the fuckers decided to roll. Well, one of them decided to better its life, but the other ones were a 2 and a 1.
So if Mug sees that you're struggling, he will come over like, let me help, saying that and like, I want to test out this pike anyway, and then just like smashes down with the pike and the lock.
You're really struggling to drill out the lock, Edric, when Mug comes along and says that, and then literally just stabs at the lock. Can I get you to roll an attack, Mug? And Edric,
Can I pull my hands away?
Dex on that.
I think he has for that.
6, 6, 3. Plus Dex is 3. Can I use acrobatics as well?
Yep.
That makes it a total of 20 for my dexterity.
So the pike.
Yep.
What type of a weapon is it?
Let me just quickly pull that back up. It should. Where have I lost weapons to?
From what I see here, it would probably be similar to glaive and halberd, right?
Yes.
So a polearm.
Yeah, it's a polearm. So
fighting.
Is it? But is it? So is it some?
Sorry, so I didn't quite catch all that.
So in theory, my weapons groups should access bludgeoning.
This should be weapon group polearm, I guess.
It is a weapon group polearm, so you'll be using one that's slightly outside your expertise so far.
So what does that mean?
You will be taking a -2 on your accuracy on it. So
Is it
it will be, off the top of my head, it's fighting. I'm struggling to find it right now. Where is it?
Page 56.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chapter 4, equipment.
There we go. Yeah, so it's fighting and strength still, but you will take a -2 to hit.
Wait, is a pike more like a spear or more like a polearm? Or a lance?
It is more like a polearm.
Okay. That's more because I was confused. The fact that I asked. Sorry.
That's
Radio. So, Mug, you take a swing. It's a little bit wild, but you manage to hit directly onto the lock. If Edric hadn't moved, he would have been dead in the way, but like lightning, he's rolled and tumbled underneath the attack. Can I get you to do a strength plus your might on that strike?
so
Just 3 dice plus your strength plus 2. Okay, yep. Exactly what that says. You manage to
Mug is not delicate.
strike it between where the locking mechanism is holding it shut and the metal hook that feeds through the latch, and rip it apart. The
There you go, much better.
latch flies open as you do so.
Can I push open the chest?
Yep. Inside you find some pouches, some very, very old papers, and a small unlocked box. Just a small wooden one with a loose fitting lid.
Is there anything in that box?
Opening it up, you see a couple of vials that look very similar to stuff that Bingo has thrown around from time to time.
I'd like to close the box and put it in my backpack.
Yep.
Can I also inspect some of the pouches?
Picking up a couple of the pouches. There's 2 of them that jingle as you do so.
Yes.
And the 3rd one doesn't make any noise.
Can I open that one that doesn't make...
Yep. Opening it, you find it didn't make too much noise because there's only 1 item in it. And that was a necklace.
Ooh. Is it a pretty necklace?
You've seen the occasional prettier one, but it is quite a nice one.
I'd like to put that one away as well.
Yep.
And there's 2 other pouches I heard? Or is
Yep.
there...
2 that jingled.
Okay. You know what? Can I hand one to Mug?
Yep.
Ooh,
Here you go.
What's this?
Well, we're sharing what we find.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then I look at the other pouch.
Yep. So you open that one, and inside you find a whole stack of silvers.
How many would that roughly be?
Without counting it, you guess probably about 30, maybe 40 silver.
Can I take like 10 from it?
Yep.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to close the pouch as I have the 10 out of it in my own wallet or something.
Yep.
And then I'd like to toss what's left, so that's 20 to 30 or so. I'd like to toss those to Wisp and go, here, catch.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. I mean, we find it, we shed it, right?
I'm gonna split that with Alara.
No, wait, I have something else for Alara.
Oh? Do tell. Go on then.
I found this pouch with something that I'd like to give to her. But I'd like to give it to her personally, so I'll be right there.
Oh gosh, you're gonna try and claim again. Toss up the rope.
Huh, that's a good idea. I
Oh my
tossed it
god.
up. I was indeed gonna just try and jump and climb.
Right. Alara, we can work together to pull them up, yeah?
Or you can tie it to. I should not say anything. Mug is also looking at the.
Mug, inside yours, you find a similar amount of silver coins. So there's about 30 silver coin in there.
Oh wow, I'm rich.
Alara looks at you, Wisp, and says, how about we just tie it off somewhere? I have no desire to go and jump on that rock either.
It's a
This
comfy
is what
rock.
I was going to suggest.
Wait, are we going down or are they coming up?
They can come back up unless they want to use the door.
Oh, true, there's a door.
There's a door here. But let's look what's inside.
Okay.
See if that door just swings open, I swear to God.
The door is barred from the inside. So from the side, you're currently on both Mug and Silas.
Can we lift the bar?
Yep. So you lift it off and pull the door open, and you were back in the street.
Well, that was easy.
We found a way out without climbing.
Yeah, but we need to get down.
Yeah, this is not death.
You can at least come and catch Alara.
Okay, I'll come catch you guys.
Alara's just going to look across at you, Wisp, and very softly say, after watching him fall like that, I'd rather just climb.
Fair dues.
So Alara's going to make her way back to the side of the building that you climbed up, and is going to make her way back down. And she relatively gracefully does so.
I'm gonna jump because after trying to get up, I don't trust myself.
Go for it. Do a dex acrobatics.
This time I got 20.
You do a tumbling leap and aim specifically for a section that appears to be quite sandy and land without any issue.
Woo!
There is no sending your hair, though.
I'll just shake it off, whatever.
I'll, like, look at that and go, huh, that looked like a softer landing. And then I'll just point at the rock and see, and say, I landed there.
Yes, also.
Shit, I hoped you didn't.
There's always time to practice later.
Can I, like, try and do a flip?
Oh god, please.
Just, like, running up on the rock and then trying to do a flip off it?
Dexterity acrobatics.
I really hope you roll double, triple.
I am so glad I have advantage on acrobatics.
What did you get?
So one of the results was triple one.
Oh.
The other result was much better. As in 18 in total.
Yeah.
There's a literal difference of 10 here.
Yeah.
So this time round, you successfully run up the rock, plant your foot perfectly on the top, and do a backflip off it, landing on your feet, facing everyone with a bow.
Was this better practice?
Bravo.
Well, if you were only as strong as good as you were at jump.
But that was a flat surface you done it on though, so not this.
Easy.
Alara just saunters up to you, Silas, pokes you in a sore spot and says, "Now, if only you did that the first time."
Silas pouts some more and now makes a whining noise. Like, you know a puppy that's whining.
Please don't make me heal you repeatedly down here.
Oh.
Silas pulls out the rifle again. Oh wait, no, he doesn't pull out the rifle. He pulls out the thing that I found, the necklace. And he goes, "Here, I found something for you as well to share in the."
She takes the pouch and opens the top and has a look in and then smiles and goes, "Well, that's exceptionally nice of you."
You're very welcome. I thought of you when I found it, so why not give it to you?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, ain't you two just adorable?
Glancing in your direction, Wisp, she smirks and winks.
Which way are we going?
Alara's just going to gesture back over her shoulder, roughly down towards where the alleyway is, and says, "Somewhere down in that direction was where we saw that flash of light."
Can I use my scope to scout out of the door and see if there's any monsters there looking at us?
Yep, we'll get you to do a perception scene.
Oh shit, I have to use ice for that. Which is not what he's good at. Then again, that's a decent roll. 1 plus 3 is 14.
Looking through the doorway, you don't see any threats down the alleyway at all. And you're just about to put the rifle down when you see another flash of light. You can't quite see what caused it because it was behind buildings and so on, walls and bits of fallen debris. But it's definitely coming from that side of the city.
Was it far away?
It's hard for you to tell from this particular place. But if you were to hazard a guess, it would probably be about halfway into the city.
Okay.
Where maybe its center once was.
Ooh. I'd like to take note of where that is and also where the room with the pikes and such is in relation to it.
Yep.
And then I'd like to tell the others, there was another flash of light. Shall we go and investigate some more?
Cautiously.
Yes, let's go. Let's see if we can find something. Cautious. Fight.
Okay, let's go.
Alara puts a finger on your shoulder, Silas, as you're about to leave, and says, "Wait just one moment." And then she holds a hand up roughly over your chest, and you see a faint light glow. After a couple of seconds, she smiles and goes, "On your way." And that just healed you 4. Off the top of my head, it is plus that. So that would be 7 hit points.
Oh shit, back to max. Thank you.
Oh, she doesn't.
She's going to follow you out, and from behind, she will cast that again. And she fully heals you up, Mug.
Oh yeah.
And let me just subtract that off her mana. Wherever I've lost that to. Oh, there.
Glenn.
Yep.
Had some.
I didn't quite catch that, Mug.
I heard you have some.
Yeah. So my had some noted previous healed.
I caught every second word there.
Does the Bible teach there are certain things that God made holy?
I don't know what that was, but it was fucking perfect.
Okay. So what I was trying, I damage noted that is that.
So Alara did a total of 11 hit points of healing for you.
Oh, thanks. I feel better.
Right. Composing myself since there is not random preachers down here.
That was a ghost priest that once lived in this town or something.
You follow Mug on down what used to be an alley. On the left, you realize that the walls have collapsed under the strain of whatever happened here. And the building has collapsed in on itself. The alleyway leads along and then around to the left. The only noises you hear is the occasional leathery flap of wings in the distance, the odd roar here and there across the city, and the constant sound of sand sort of drifting in from above and piling in pools.
so guys, the Merrisea. I'm not sure if we are there yet.
Let's get closer then.
Okay,
Glenn,
good idea.
Yep.
talking about getting closer to that thing, did you see the message I sent?
Let me have a quick squiz it again.
In your DMs?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep. Righty up.
Just to make sure.
So, turning a corner in the alleyway, you see it stretches out ahead of you in a long straight line before hitting a what looks like cluster of walls. There's the ruins of a tower with an intersection halfway down this alleyway, and up ahead a convoluted mess of rock and building and sand. There's a lot of paths branching off in every direction. But you're fairly certain that, Silas, the light sort of erupted from just beyond the far end of this alley.
Okay. Now that sounds like the perfect timing for my plan. Do I roll anything for that?
Roll a perception. Seeing as you look for the perfect spot.
That's number plus number. Another number. I believe I mathed it correctly.
Righty up. Looking around, the place that seems most appropriate is that ruined tower halfway along the alleyway. Just before you would get there, there is what looks like a intersection where another alleyway or road past the tower, making up one corner of the intersection itself.
I'd like to go there carefully.
No problem. Alara is just going to cautiously make her way along behind.
But yeah, Muggy.
As you step out into the intersection, you see that at some time long in the past, it was potentially a thoroughfare. To your left, there is buildings that perhaps long ago might have been houses. And to your right, there is slightly wider roads and pathways, although they're littered with boulders and bits of debris. The buildings most directly to the right are completely collapsed in on themselves. They look like once upon a time they may have been 3 or 4 story high, but now they're only about 1. The tower itself is not in the best of shape. It looks like rocks have crashed into parts of it, gashing open huge gouges in the stonework. Parts of the stairwell are exposed, but it seems like you could at least get to the top.
Good. I'd like to turn around, look at the other 3 people that we have with us. So that's Mug, Whisp, and Alara.
Yep.
And I'll just very quietly say, you guys go on ahead. I'll be up here to protect you.
what are you doing up there?
I point at the fuck off big rifle on my back, and I go, "That thing is gonna make friends with whatever's over there."
You're sending us over to the thing.
Well, to take a look at the thing. And in the meantime, I'll make sure to be able to shoot the thing while you distract it.
Oh, I want to shoot it as well.
Yes, but your pistol can't shoot that far.
Oh yeah, I have to go up close.
Yeah,
Oh.
Besides, don't you want to look him in the eye as you
Yeah, that. Okay, let's go. And Mug is march.
Oh.
I start climbing. Wait, I looked at Whisp one last time.
You better have a good aim, sir. And I'm gonna follow Mug.
Have you seen me?
Yes.
I'm
Uh-huh.
and I'll just keep singing a tune about how I'm the best as I climb the tower.
Well, I can shiny bullet.
Alara goes and follows both you, Wisp and Mug.
I've got my crossbow at the ready just in case.
You make your way past what was a small plaza on your left that opens up, and you see ruins of shops. And then come to the end of the alley, and a wall made of ornate stone. Patches of it are damaged and cracked, and the thinnest of alleys goes off to the right.
Mug
Jum.
still marching forward.
Mug, you have to sort of shimmy sideways through the alley. Alara follows behind.
I'm gonna follow them, but I'm gonna keep looking back.
Yep.
Will we be out of sight of Edric then?
Uh,
Silas.
you have...
Oh, you Edric.
He'll respond to both by now.
Yeah. So, Silas, you've made your way up to a part of the tower that got hit by, as far as you can tell, rock and boulders. That has torn away the walls. From up there, you watch the others go down the alleyway, and then at what appears to be a solid wall, have slipped around to the right and out of view. Let me just double check what Alara rolled. That was that. Plus... completely wrong thing I was looking at there. Alright, she's not great at that.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry.
Oh gosh.
Why did you?
Look, are they out of my sight, by the way?
Sorry?
Are they out of my sight?
Yes, they have slipped out of sight.
I'll carefully be looking through the... Yeah, and looking at where I'd expect them to appear.
From where you are now, you can see what appears to be a small... You'd hesitate to call it a garden, but it has what appears to be small statues and what may have been a tiny fountain, a gate, and a small entry point. And you can see that there's a slight gap on the opposite area of the wall that is just as decorated You presume that perhaps the others will be coming out that way.
Yep.
As you do, you eventually see Mug sort of sauntering sideways out of it, and then Alara, and then eventually Wisp.
Good. That will be one relieved sigh from Silas.
Mug, in front of you is a old cast iron gate that is unlatched and reasonably decorated.
But Mug is open.
It squeaks on its hinges as you push it open. And passing just beyond it, you see statues almost as tall as you are, a empty fountain, and a couple of stone carved benches, one of them broken.
Place is so boring.
Beyond that, you see a doorway.
Let's just keep going until we find.
Won't we again be out of sight of Silas then?
Most likely.
Can I call for him to come over? Because we're just going to end up losing sight of each other.
It was his plan from over there.
Yeah, but we keep moving forward anyway.
I
There's
can
only
see
so
that we
far
are
we can go.
Silas,
Yes.
from your position, you can see that they are pretty much almost at where you predict the light to have come from. You can't quite see into the place, but
What's
there's
in the building?
where they are right now is on the outer part of what looks to be, or once may have been, a series of connected buildings.
I think Silas can.
The innermost part is, and from where you are, looks almost like an open courtyard, but you can't quite see fully into it. You can only see the far end.
Oh shit. Can I climb down and like find a spot that's not on level ground but above it? But a way to get closer, like without actually using alleyways and such, the tops of the walls and roofs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so from where you are right now, you can see that the roofs on the other side, the opposite end of the complex, seem to be relatively intact, leading towards the inner courtyard.
I'd like to make my way to those roofs, if at all possible.
Yep. So making your way down the tower, you re-enter into the alleyway that the others took and run to the nearest wall on the left there. And finding a spot, you climb up onto the roof. I will get you to do a roll for that. Because triple ones are hilarious.
Is that acrobatics again?
Yep.
14.
Yep. Possibly because you decorated yourself on a rock, you're not as agile this time round.
Wait, because I decorated mine?
Yourself onto a boulder earlier.
Oh,
You're
yes.
not as agile and spry as you were. You make your way to the top, and then running along the rooftops, find yourself overlooking a large inner courtyard. From there you can see roughly where the others are currently facing the door, a ruined building. The side of the wall has collapsed outward into the courtyard, and you can see into it. The courtyard itself is surrounded on the outside by statues, some of them in one piece, some of them not. And on the opposite end of it is a large building. The roof has collapsed inwards, and as you look at it, a bright light shines through the hole.
Shit, so even on these roofs I have no sightlines whatsoever.
What you can see is that there are two large double doors leading into that building, but they are closed. Mug and Wisp, are you going to go through the door directly in front of you opposite?
Yeah, I think if Adrian, if it's either late, it's late.
Can I make some noise, like not loud, but loud enough that they can hear me?
Well, I keep looking back to see where you are, so there's some sort of hand signal.
Well, maybe I'm on the roofs in the courtyard ahead of you.
So Wisp, you've looked up again where Silas was, and you can't see him now.
Oh god. I'm gonna panically look everywhere. Will people see him there?
Yeah.
I'm gonna whistle.
Meanwhile, Mug is just going. Or
Where is Edric, Silius? Where is he?
Mug and Wisp, do a perception. Hearing, if you've got it.
Oh, I got another 20.
Damn.
All right. Wisp, just as you're about to panic, you hear a whistle coming from a direction you weren't expecting, but it seems to be coming in from over the roofs to your immediate left.
I'm gonna look in that direction, and I'm assuming I see him.
You have to back up quite a bit so that you're almost back against the wall of the gardens.
Right.
And you think you can just make out the top of his head there.
Ah. I'm gonna say to this, I think I can see him.
I'm gonna wave the top of my rifle a bit above myself as I hear that.
Wisp, you do see that.
Yep, it's him. Can't mistake that thing anywhere.
As you say that, you hear a very loud roar. And Silas, you see a manticore flapping itself up and out of the hole of the roof.
The one we just...
Uh-oh. I lower the rifle. And I'm gonna take a follow with my scope where it's...
It's looking directly at you.
Oh, so it has heard me whistle as well.
It has.
Can I shoot it?
Yep, you'll get a reaction shot, and then I will get initiative.
Oh no.
Okay, so this is with my scoped arc.
Yep.
What a start.
Oh gosh.
Plus 4 plus 2 is 22 to try and hit.
That's a hit.
that's with 5 stun points, I reckon. Glenn?
Let me just quickly. Yeah, that's 5 stunts.
In that case, I'd like to lightning attack
Yep,
and 2 rapid reloads.
go for it.
Okay, so the first attack hits near max damage. So that's the first attack hits for numbers. 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 is 16 damage. And then the second attack 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2 is 17 to hit.
17 hits.
Okay. And that's almost as satisfying. That's 2 ones for my damage die. And then plus 3 makes a total of 8 damage.
Let me just double check. So that was 16 damage and then 8 damage.
Yes. All of it. Oh wait, there's no such thing as like piercing damage or anything here.
Do not forget your
Oh!
and yes, you're faster, you know this by now.
Yes. That's a 6.
Noted.
So that's another 6 damage.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a total of 30 damage in one.
And its armor is that. So subtract that.
Should I roll initiative now?
Yep, that will be initiative from everybody.
Wait, Mug, what's to open?
Uh,
That's 3d6 plus dex, right?
yep.
Glenn, before the man was trying to open.
Yep, so Mug, you've opened that door just as you've heard Silas shoot.
Can I say to Mog, or Scream or whatever, he's being attacked by a Manticore, the damn fool?
What? Mug turns back. Does Mug look in?
If you look through the door that you've opened and you're right next to it, you will see out into a large sandy courtyard with statues around the outside, and a manticore is flying above the roof of the building directly opposite.
Is it a
Sorry, I missed that.
is this
I got the first 2 words.
is this the same or as the one attacking?
Yes, it is the same one as the one attacking Silas. If you step through the door, you will see Silas on the rooftop directly to your left.
Hang on, buddy. Let me help. and Mug is going in there to try to.
Yep. So let's see, Silas, you got 10 initiative.
Yes.
Alright. I'll get Mug, I'll get yours and Wisp's initiative as well.
I've got 17.
Alright.
Mug is 12.
Noted. That's a very pitiful one there for Alara. And 12 and 17 there. So 12 And 17 on Wisp. Which means that Wisp, you are up first.
Okay. Where are we the moments on the garden? Or did we go towards it?
So it was a small gun. Best way to describe it would be about probably tops 5 square meters.
Mm-hmm.
You've opened up a ornate wooden doorway into the remains of a building. The entire left-hand wall has collapsed out. Beyond that collapsed wall is a large open inner plaza with statues along the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Through and to just to your right is 2 large double doors. And across the plaza from where you've just entered is Silas standing on the roof.
Oh, so he's like actually like not that far from us then.
Nope. He's about 20 meters away on top of a roof.
Oh. Can I shout, hello, we're here to help? Oh, no, that's too far. Not that. Hold on.
You can shout that far.
Okay. Then I'm gonna do that and see if he notices.
I think I'm gonna be kind of distracted. Honestly. So I'll kind of just help.
With that, Wisp, you're actually up first.
Right. Can I get closer?
You can do. You can make it easily into the very center of the courtyard.
Uh-huh.
The Manticore is currently flying above the top of the building directly in front of you.
How far away?
15 meters tops.
Ah. Right. Give me a second.
Silas, from where you are, the wall directly behind Wisp's back is the wall they shimmied past. There's a tiny little alleyway behind it.
Nice.
So would that count as short range for me?
Yep.
If I was to do a crossbow, then I'll go for that then. And it's distracted by Silius, yeah?
Yep. Also, you're probably faster than it.
Ah.
If you're roughly as fast as Silas is.
That's not good.
Oh, you did move, so you can't take a time shot.
I got 13.
Let me just quickly double check.
It's not good.
No, that's a hit.
Cool. Got 13 again.
13 damage.
Uh-huh. Wait, does that count major or minor?
Yep, you hit it and you definitely draw blood.
Say that again, sorry?
You hit it and you definitely draw blood.
Right. Did I get its attention, or is it still focused?
You got its attention as it wasn't expecting to get attacked from your direction.
So is it moving towards us now, or?
Let me just double check turn order, and not yet.
Right.
Instead, you hear a screeching roar from inside the building.
Hell!
Hello.
Hello. And then the one that you've just shot is going to attempt to fly and attack you.
Wait, there's more?
Just. And that's going to be a miss. A miss. Hang on. Let me just double check what it adds. Oh, hang on. I forgot it's got that. 14 hit. Wisp, what's your defense? Sorry?
I am 14 exactly.
Ah, rightio. Oh, bollocks, I just shut that. That was a mistake.
What was a mistake?
I had all the rulebooks and stuff open, and shutting one thing accidentally shut everything.
Control Shift T.
All good. Got it back open.
Does that mean you get attacked by the other one? Is that gonna...
You heard a roar and screeching noises from inside the building, but you haven't seen anything come out. The one that was flying above that you just shot is launched itself down at you and has swung at you with a claw, hitting you for 12 damage minus your armor.
Right. That would be 9.
Yep. And checking the turn order again. So that was that one. Currently one that you can see. Mug, you're up.
So he's going
It's
the closest man to
the closest Manticore swooped at Wisp and struck her with a claw before landing in the sand roughly between you and Wisp. It is not very far away at all. You could easily reach it if you charge.
Yeah.
I can't hear a thing, but I'm presuming Mug is charging.
I said that, yeah. Well, I just want to it. My gun.
Oh, shoot it? Yep, go for it. If you're not going to move, that's an aim shot, so you can add +1.
Just make sure you're not aiming for me.
Sorry, do I have to add something?
So a pistol is, once I get back up to it. Why do I not have this on shortcut equipment? Right, so your pistol is accuracy and then perception for damage. So you'll add +3 to hit. Well, to be honest, +4 because you can aim.
Oh, +4. So that's 16.
Yep, that's definitely a hit. And
Which is...
so a pistol does 1d6, and you can add +4 to that.
That's 8 pistol.
Noted. And because it's that one. Yeah, as I thought. Right, so Mug, you aim your shot and fire. As you've gotten accustomed to now, the bullet glows as it flies out the barrel of smoke and hits the manticore. And that brings us up to Edric.
Nice. I wanna. Well, there's one manticore that I can see.
Yep, it's attacked Wisp. Everyone has hurt it so far, but it's still up.
Okay. In that case, I feel it's time to actually start like taking that thing out.
Yep.
So this time it's serious. Let's see if I can find the minor action. I just want that one. Okay, I'd like to do aim
Noted.
to make it a cold shot, basically.
Yep.
Less. Wait, wasn't there one that you can use to help?
Sorry, to help you do what?
To help out someone else.
That
Or was that a
is.
stunt?
It is a stunt.
Okay.
Oh
Oh yeah, set up.
Yeah, set up.
Okay. In that case, I'd just like to aim.
Yep.
And then instead of a normal attack, I'd like to do an all-out attack. Oh wait, no, that's hand-to-hand.
Yeah, you can only do a hand for that.
In that case, I'd like to just do a normal ranged attack. You know, the thing that you're used to from me.
Yep, go for it.
So with the arquebus, I hit for 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus, and then that's plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. Jesus, that's a high number.
I'm going to just presume at this stage that you hit.
That's a 17 total.
Yes, that's a hit.
Okay, I get 4 stun points, which means 1 rapid reload. And I'm actually gonna give Wisp a setup.
Yep. So Wisp will get a +2 from memory.
Yeah, +2 to 1 ability test or something of their. But you have to decide before you actually roll the dice.
Ability test.
Well, that would also include something like an attack. That's an ability.
Yep.
Right.
In fact, damage is an ability roll, right?
Yes, damage is indeed an ability roll.
So that could be a +2 to damage.
Cool.
With that, I'm just gonna shoot once then. That's 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 is 10 damage total.
Noted. Yep, you hit it, and you can definitely see that your bullet has penetrated.
Ooh, nice. Also, because the thing is slower than me, I'd like to use
Yep, add that to it.
5.
Noted. Let me just go back and add that to that. Yep. Right. So that was Silas's turn, and Alara now steps through. She stays roughly inside the building and is going to focus and cast a spell past Mug and at the Manticore. So let me just quickly grab that. That was a very shitty roll. And she just scrapes a hit with that. And does that. So, Mug, you see a sizzling bolt of energy go flying past you and slam into the flank of the Manticore.
Oh. Burn that. Burn it.
And that brings up the end of the turn order, which means that's going to happen. From inside the building, you hear the screeching sound again, followed by a roar, but you don't see anything. And the Manticore on the ground is now going to turn and run at Mug.
Yeah. Wait. Mug likes to be angry.
Does a 14 hit you, Mug?
What is?
You should have a defense score.
Yeah, does.
Defense 12, yeah, that does hit. So the Manticore is going for that, since it didn't actually do anything spectacular. And that is going to be 10 points of damage minus your armor. So the Manticore rushes at you and swipes with a claw, raking you across the chest.
Oh, this is but a scratch.
It roars and growls in your general direction. And swings back to Mug. It's your turn. Oh, hang on.
Whisp.
Sorry, it is indeed Wisp's turn.
I am going to use my short sword so I can use that bonus if I'm successful.
Yep.
That's 10.
10 to hit.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be a miss. So from behind, you've attempted to slash at the Manticore's tail, which it moves as it lurches. Tip of your blade just missing it.
Come on, Wisp, you can do better.
I'm trying here.
Mug, you're up.
So yeah. So probably. It's close enough that it's too, but I don't know.
Sorry, I'm missing most of that.
Okay, so it's really close to me, so I don't lose the.
Yeah, it's probably too close to use the pike unless you back up off it.
But nice weapons.
Yep, you are used to swapping weapons in a fight quickly, and you don't tend to keep your maul tied up too tightly or anything, so you could drop your pike and grab the maul pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So you can ready your melee weapon easy. That's not a problem.
yeah. I get the roar. And then say, yeah, I will show you Whisp how to do it.
Yep. So roll an attack.
We'll see if it. We'll see. Oh no, being cocky. I don't.
Hang on, let me just.
8. Yeah.
Did I hear 8?
Unless I can.
Yep. So, what you can add off the top of my head is you're fighting. Which is a +3.
I already did the.
Alright, yep, that's with the fighting and everything. So how much? It was 8 altogether, was it?
So it was 8 for. So I rolled a 2 and 2 1s. And then I rolled. Yeah, and then I. I rolled 2 2s and.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately, that will be a miss. So you drop your pike, grab your maul, and swing it hard at the face of the creature just as it steps backwards, bringing its face just out of range of the hammer.
Come on, Mug, what are you doing?
Next time! You will see next time!
Uh-huh.
Silas, you see your companions attempt to swing at the creature, and it's just keeping itself out of range of both of them.
Do I hear them squabbling as well?
Yes.
Is it now my turn?
Yes, it is.
In that case, I'm gonna first yell out. Have you guys tried actually hitting the thing? Here, like this. And then I shoot.
Go for it.
So all of us are being cocky right now. And this is how we die. Is it a triple one?
No, it's
But
not that bad. But I did roll a 3, a 2, and a 2.
That just hits.
Okay, so first
That
off,
was close.
it's slower than me.
Yep.
So that means 2 for the pinpoint attack, 2 damage.
Yep.
And I get 2 stun points, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to taunt.
Noted.
And I'd like to rapid reload.
Go for it.
Ah, that's better. So the normal attack, like the one with the actual rifle, that one does something. Wait, that's not 4, 2, that's 3, 3. Is 11 plus that is 17 damage. This does not include the 2 from pinpoint attack, by the way.
Alright, so that was all up 17, 18, 19 damage.
Yeah, 19 would be. See, like that.
Show off.
I'm just gonna stick my tongue out.
I'm just gonna blow a small kiss to them.
You see, Alara, your man is cheating.
Alara just smirks at you, Mug. And I'm just going to grab. Whoop! Don't drop that. And then she's going to do that. Ooh, and she is definitely going to do that. So that's. So she definitely hit. She definitely stunted. And she's going to do that. And she definitely needed to do that because that was a shit roll. So Alara smirks at you, Mug, raises a hand, and sends another crackling bolt of energy across the Manticore. Its fur singes, and it roars firstly at you, and then at her. And with that, Wisp, you're up.
2 seconds. I'm just gonna reload my crossbow and use aim.
Yep. This is gonna happen. Finally. Inside the building, you hear that screech again. Finally followed by a high-pitched whine of snapping metal.
Oh,
Metal.
so this thing is not here voluntarily.
And then the doors bust open, and a manticore forces its way out. This one with chains around its necks and claws, and its wings are shattered and broken.
No, this one is kind of sad.
I mean, you could use the chains as reins if you want to ride it.
Oh,
Mug.
that's a good plan.
The manticore in front of you, Mug, is actually going to try and rush past you to attack Alara, so you'll get a free attack on it.
Wait, I did use a taunt on them, right?
You did, and number 2 is definitely looking at you, Silas.
Okay.
Number 1 didn't like the fact that Alara singed it.
Fair enough. I just wanted to check that I didn't actually only think that I said it.
Nope.
Good.
So, Mug, you'll get a free shot at this manticore, and it fails miserably to hit Alara.
It was blinded by its aim.
Yep, that's a hit.
It's seven.
And 14 damage.
Yes.
Alright. Let me just do a quick bit of... excuse me. Right, so the reason it fails miserably in attacking Alara is because in its rush to get past you, Mug, it lines up perfectly for you to smash it in the face with a hammer and drop it for good.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Mug, you cheer in victory and raise your hammer over its body. And that was...
Mug is happy.
Right. That was that turn. And that puts Mug. You're next in initiative. So, turning around, you now find
Wait, did
the...
Mug just hammer time someone?
Mug got a reaction shot as it tried to run past.
Okay.
And has now noticed Manticore number 2 roaring in the center of the courtyard.
Yeah, so the other Manticore.
I missed whatever you said at the end there.
So there's one Manticore.
Yep, there's only one Manticore left. It's standing in the center of the courtyard.
So
I seem to only get the first bit of whatever you say, Mug.
I was asking. And then more, or is it two?
No, you're still dropping out.
Hi, can you hear me?
I heard that.
Yeah. Can I charge at it with two?
Yep, you can charge at it.
Okay, so it's not charge. I charge.
Yep.
And yeah. Do
So-
a war cry as well. Die. One tick.
Add a +1 to your attack with the charge.
Yes. Ooh,
That's a definite hit there, and stunts.
yeah, 5.
Yep.
So Manticores look like they have armor. Yes, one.
Yeah, they've got a thick furry hide.
So can I pierce armor?
Yep, you can definitely do a pierce armor.
So do double.
I missed that second bit. You doing a mighty blow?
Yeah, the one that doubles damage.
Yep, so mighty blow is plus 1d6 for damage.
So it's not necessarily a double, but it's more along the lines of you get to throw more dice.
Yep. And we're using the pike or are you using the maul?
The mole.
So
If I
Yep, so that will be 2d6 plus 3 for damage.
well, D6.
Oh, sorry, plus 4 for damage. Oh, hang on, I'm looking at the wrong sheet there.
and now I do like an.
Oh, hang on.
So let me damage. Yeah, and +4 for.
Oh, that's what I was looking at wrong.
Yeah,
So,
so that's 22 damage, pierce armor.
that's quite respectable. Let me just pull out the creature and these that.
And this is how you do it.
Right.
It's
So
not going to try and raid it.
Mug rushes forward with a war cry and swings his two-handed maul, catching the creature right across the side of the skull, sending it staggering sideways. No, Mug has not jumped on it. So that was Mug's turn. That brings up Edric.
Well, I intended to hop on it and try to ride it, but that's not gonna be a thing now.
It looks quite pissed. To be honest, it's hard to tell if it's more or less piss.
Can I see its face?
You can.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to plant one bullet right between the eyes.
Yep.
Okay,
Add +1 for aiming.
let me quickly check if there's anything else that would make more sense to do. Yep, I'm aiming. So that's... Oof. 5 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1 for aiming. 21 to hit.
That's a hit.
Okay, with 5 stunt points.
Yeah. Don't forget your
I'd like-
pinpoint.
Ooh, first pinpoint. For pinpointing damage.
Yep.
And then stunts. I'd like to do the fun ones. I have 5 of those. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna actually use another setup on Wisp again.
Yep.
So that's for 3. Then I'm also gonna pierce armor and rapid reload.
Yep.
So for damage, 6 plus I should learn to first select the typing box. Plus 3 plus 3 plus. That's it. What did I take? Yeah, that's it. Is 15 damage. And this 15 is not including the 4 from pinpoint.
That's right.
Yeah,
I've taken that into account.
Okay, good.
Noted. So, as it staggers to the side, Silas, you slightly adjust your shot and nail it exactly where you're aiming.
Nice.
And that...
Step 1 of how to lobotomize a manticore.
Noted. So Alara is going to draw her rapier and is going to now rush in. And on the charge does hit it. Do, do, do. And she buries part of a blade into the beast and then pulls it rapidly back out. It roars. It doesn't seem to know who to at, as it's taken hits in every direction. And Wisp, you're up.
I'm gonna go for my crossbow again.
Yep. You spent an action at the end of your last turn aiming.
Yep.
And you fully reloaded. You've also been set up by Edric.
Right.
So you add +3 to your attack.
Cool. That's 20.
Yeah, definitely hit. And you can use any stunts if you have them.
That's 12. Actually, am I in enough distance to get marked for death?
Oh, right. You have an extra ability. Let me just pull it up. Yes, you can do that.
And that's 13 then.
13 damage. Noted. Did you get any stunts?
No.
Yep, so 13 damage, no stunts. Noted. Alright. Manticore is up and it is pissed. So that is a 14 attack against Mug. Ooh, ouch. So that just happened.
I can hear how much damage did it do.
Oh, it hasn't done damage yet. It's just that it did its second attack.
Oh,
I'm just working that one out. Yep, so that's how it's going to do it. So, against you, Mug, it has launched forward and bitten you. And it's going to do that. So it sunk its teeth into your shoulder for 8 points of damage. And then followed that up immediately with its stinger into your other shoulder.
My armor still works.
Your armor works against both these. So the first one was for 8 points of damage. And the second attack is for 15 points of damage. And the ouch bit is, yep, it just hit Alara for 12. Sorry, I missed that mug, whatever that was.
My armor.
Yep, so it did 8 minus your armor, which was, I think, 4, plus the second bit of damage was 11. So something along those lines. So it should be, I think, all up 4 plus 7. So 11 damage. Let me just pull up the roster again. So that was that. Right. Mug, the Manticore sunk its teeth and then its stinger into you.
Oh,
And
constitution.
yeah, do a Constitution save against its poison.
Oh.
Is almost.
Silas, from the rooftop, you also see that it's battered out with a claw and just raked Alara. Mug, yep, you resist the poison.
Mug is stung.
You shake off the woozy effects of it, but it still hurts.
Bloody stings.
You get to react because it's your turn.
Oh, it's mine.
Yep.
Then I'm definitely. Yes, it's the crippled.
So I'm missing most of that mug.
This is the crippled.
Yep. So it can't fly as far as you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. So whoever smashed up your wings, I'm going to smash you up more.
Roll your attack, and since you don't have to move...
So here, I can't.
I missed that.
Can I charge it, or is it?
You're already in close combat, so you can't charge it again.
I can't use mighty.
Only if you wanted to try and push it over. You can do an all-out attack if you want.
What does that do?
Increases your damage by 1, but decreases your defense next turn.
Yeah, why not? So it's 12 instead of.
Yep.
11. but that might not still.
Oh, you can actually aim a melee attack. So if you want to increase your attack roll, you can actually aim this shot.
Okay, so maybe I'm aiming it.
Yep.
Maybe I'm aiming at it at its weakest spot,
Boot the snoot.
or wherever it's hurt. But
Based on the fact that you've succeeded in rapidly hitting it in the face a few times, you're pretty certain it's hurting in the head.
yeah.
It also has a bullet hole in the middle of the forehead.
As a what?
A bullet hole. I shot him right between the eyes.
Ah. And it's not.
That seems like one of those spots that might hurt if you punch it.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Is it me? No, it can't be.
No, I think we maybe lost the mug.
No, I'm here. I was just asking if you guys are.
Oh, yeah, we're here.
Okay, yes. Hello.
Unless you can't hear us now.
I can. Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Ah, okay. Oh, hang on, you've rolled your attack? Or am I reading an old message?
Yeah. So the attack should in total be 12.
Okay, yep. 12 is a hit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting for that message to pop up.
Oh, did you not get the message?
It did come through. It was just not certain if it was the previous one.
I should also have 3 hit points.
Yes, you can use 3 stunts.
Sorry, stunts. That's fine. Can I do pierce?
Yes, you can.
Can I do anything?
For 1 stunt point, you could probably move it around.
Sorry. I was going to say because I can't need. But yeah, so that's 13.
13
Yes.
damage with pass armor. Yep. Oh, pierce armor, I should say. Noted. So that does. Yeah, you do another good shot and catch it upside the head. It doesn't go down, but you can almost see its eyes unfocus a little. And with that, it's you, Edric.
Okay, so the thing is still standing.
Yep,
Can I still see his face?
you can.
Okay, I'd like to expand on that bullet hole that I made.
Go for it.
As in, I'm aiming for exactly the same spot.
Yep. +1 for aiming.
6 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1 10 16 18 total.
That's a hit.
Okay. In that case, 5 points from pinpoint.
Yep.
And 4 plus 3 plus damage.
So that was 12 plus your pinpoint.
Yes, 12 plus pinpoint.
Noted. Your shot hits it squarely where you aimed before, and you see the creature stagger backwards. It's still barely keeping itself up. Alara picks herself up from where she is.
Yeah.
And goes to attack. Let me just pull that sheet back up. She sends crackling bolt of energy directly at it and knocks it clean over onto its side. It twitches a few times and then stays. And with that, silence falls back over the yard. And I'll give everyone a chance at a perception check.
So was it a perception?
Yep. Right. Silas, you're thrilled that the thing has fallen over. And you're looking around to see if there's any other threats. When you notice something falling into the road beside you from out of the sky.
From out of the sky?
Yep. And then you see another thing fall. And you realize that the Manticores are dropping.
Huh?
It's raining Manticores. I just look at Whisp and Mug and I go, Timber!
Wait, are all the manticores broken now? That's not good. Why?
As you say that, a Manticore corpse falls onto the top of the roof right next to Silas.
I was just going to say, can I climb down? But I think I'm a bit distracted now. Splat.
There is a very meaty splat.
Wait. Wait. Glenn?
Yep.
So what happens when a meat bag...
Yes, you will be rolling a will save.
Oh my god.
You see the body hit the roof. Manticore blood splatters literally everywhere, including across you. And you start gagging and retching and backing away. And trip backwards off the roof.
Oh god.
The rest of you see Silas fall backwards into the yard and onto his back, lying in the sand. He appears to be making strange retching noises.
Should we go see if he's okay? Oh gosh.
He
I'm
should
gonna
be
try and
okay.
get some.
Yeah, I think Mug is prodding at the.
Okay. Is he wearing a jacket he can just take off so he's not seen the blood? Or
Well, he is wearing his heavy leather jacket, but I believe the splatter also is all across his face.
oh gosh.
Wait, is there now blood in his beard?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna take some bandages, soak them in water, and try and wash them off his face.
Silas is still just retching and now also groaning because damn, that was quite a big fall. Lynn, did that do any damage, that fall?
It would have only done about 4 points of damage, but I wouldn't stress about putting anything on there yet. Because Alara's just cast a mass spell
Ah.
because she's hurting.
Gosh.
And that does plus her. Bonus there of that, so plus 4. So that's 14 hit points for everyone, I think. Because I think that spell reaches everyone.
Oh, it's 14.
Twice for your willpower. And she has... Yeah, she can... Bloody hell. Yep, so 14 hit points for everyone.
Awesome. So, now that Silas is a bit cleaner and, like, feeling a bit better about having fallen and such, he's gonna first turn to Whisp and say thank you.
You're welcome.
He then pulls out the cask of mead that he always has with him on the top of his backpack. He pulls it out, offers to share some with Wisp, and before Wisp can even respond, he goes, "Oh wait, we'd better not," and he puts it back.
Why? What's in it?
I may have filled it with manticore venom.
Yeah! How about you label that nonsense?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have something to label it with?
I have some bandage you can tie around it.
That works.
That'll do, yeah. I just
No.
had them.
I'll take the bandages and like tightly wrap it around the casket of venom.
Don't get that on your skin, whatever you do.
I do intend to kind of test out with making some bullets that use it.
Wear gloves or something, do not do it on raw skin.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And don't do it in the cafeteria.
Ooh,
We'll
that's
eat
also
there.
good. That's
No.
also a
Oh, yeah.
good idea.
So meanwhile, Mug is prodding that crippled Manticore's corpse to see why it's the other. Surely this counts as investigating.
Mug, it reminds you of nearly every other corpse you've ever seen.
It looks exactly the same.
Yep. It looks the same as the other manticores, apart from the wings.
Could we maybe go and investigate in the building?
You can do. As you're doing the poking of corpses and looking around, Alara's ripping her blouse into a bit of a crop top to remove the damaged parts. And also to get all the bloody bits off her. Silas, you think that's hot until you see the, like, bloody blouse?
Oh no.
That first part is meant to be that whistling noise.
You feeling okay, Drake? Need some water?
Yes, please.
Here you go. Just breathe.
Did you see how much fucking blood came out of that thing?
Uh-huh. Could
But
smell it too.
I want to know why it killed the other ones. I want to resurrect them and fight them.
Alara looks at you, Mug, and cocks an eyebrow and goes, "Do you really, really want to fight that thing again?"
Yes!
It is Mug we're
Says
talking
Mug
about.
without hesitation.
Can I just like smack Mug, like not hard or anything, but just like a soft backhand, like on the back of the head, just like no.
Well, if I can figure it out, I will definitely do it.
You know what we need? We need a spray bottle so that we can spray Mug whenever he does stuff like this.
And Bingo whenever he goes after the kid.
No, but that's deserved.
No, it's not. Leave that poor kid alone. Probably scared of the corner somewhere.
We're gonna turn the kid into pie at some point.
Are we hell?
Would you prefer steak and Guinness, or would you prefer mincemeat?
Neither.
You sure?
Yes. Should we investigate where the Manticore came from in that building, shall we? Yes, I think that's a great idea.
Good idea. I'm gonna, as we walk there, I'm gonna reload my rifle.
I'm getting my arrows.
Yep.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna put the rifle on my back.
Yep.
And I'm gonna pull out 2 pistols.
Yep. So, Wisp, you recover your fired arrows. And then you all make your way through the now broken double doors and into the building. The room is old and damaged, and you can see through the roof that had collapsed in. Once again, there's damage from fallen stones. At the far end of the room on the left, there is a glowing circle on the ground. In the center of it is what you presume to be the other ends of those chains.
Ooh.
Surrounding it are skeletons and some fresher bodies of Manticores.
Alara seen anything like this?
Alara's eyes are very, very wide, and she's looking between that circle and the one on the other end of the room, on the right.
Your face says you might have an idea.
It's only a guess, but don't step in those circles.
What would happen?
Until I find proof, I don't know.
Well,
But if I was to guess, she points at the Manticores that are piled up around the circle on the left.
Yeah.
You might find out what they were.
And with that, he takes a step back.
Is there anything else in the room other than like this circle and skeletons?
Beyond the skeletons and on the back wall of the room are long tables, apparatus, books, papers, and entire shelves. some of it's damaged and knocked apart, but from the way it's laid out, it looks almost like a lab.
Yeah, Mug is rummaging up things that says resurrect me.
Right. So,
No, bad luck.
so Mug, you're just going to run off towards one of the nearest places to find.
Yeah.
Are you going to avoid the circles or run right through?
Mug is not walking through. Is he just... Why would he avoid?
Rightio. So, Mug, you just start trotting towards the tables and bookshelves and apparatus on the other side and step directly into one of the circles.
Yep.
At which point, the runes around the edges of them light up and glow, and a bright light fills the room, blinding all of you for moments.
Ow.
Oh!
As it dims, you suddenly find that you are not just seeing Mug in the circle that he's stepped into, but there is a Mug on the other side of the room.
Yes. It's double the mugs.
Oh god.
Oh hell.
And this one draws its weapon, points it at the other Mug and says, and shouts, "You can't be me, I'm me."
Yes, I'm me as well. Let's fight it. Let's see who's more me.
And with that, it charges.
And Mug charges at it.
Place your bets, folks.
Is it going to be Mug or Mug who wins this? Oh boy.
Shall we leave it there for the night and
Yeah,
pick up?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
Rightio, I will give a yo-ho to the recording and I'll stop it.
Yo-ho!
Oh.
Yeah.